Hi, how you everyone doing? My name is Robert Hanson and Roger Hanson and V. I'm happy to see all of you. And please let me know where you're from and all that. And the story is about aliens and the things that goes on. Perfect example.
The 1953 Kingman, Arizona UFO incident, which UFO historians in the show ancient aliens directly linked to the Harry nuclear test that detonated at Yucca Flats, Nevada, part of Operation Upshot Knothole, yeah, on May 19th, 1953. Now, the detonation, like I said, was on May the 19th, 1953, where the Atomic Energy Commission detonated a 15 kiloton nuclear device at the Yucca Flat site in Nevada. Now, the UAP dogfight is what immediately followed the test, where witnesses and historical researchers reported a fleet of 8 flying saucer type craft engaged in a mysterious dogfight in the skies across the state line near Kingman, Arizona. That's about, uh, or that's a few miles south of the nuclear test site. Now, according to government records and local lore, they suggest 3 unknown craft went down. One was incinerated in a mountain crash. One crash landed near a reservoir, and the third made a pristine scratch-free landing in the desert. Now, on between May the 21st and the 22nd of 1953, uh, it was said that government officials secretly assembled a team of about 40 scientists and engineers. They were transported secretly from Indiana Springs, now Creech Air Force Base in Nevada, to the Kingman Desert. Now, witnesses like engineer Arthur Stansel later reported examining a 40-foot diameter teardrop-shaped craft. Inside or along the craft, military personnel also reportedly secured the bodies of 2 to 4 hold up, yeah, 2 to 4 human-like extraterrestrial entities that were roughly 4 foot tall, wearing metallic suits. After that, the intact disc-shaped craft was placed on a cradle atop a M25 tank transporter. According to UFO lore, it was secretly taken to Groom Lake in the Nevada desert, establishing the early footprint of what would become Area 51. Now, in UFO circles, this event spawned decades of speculation, including stories of an alleged alien entity named J-Rod, who was kept at Area 51 and uh, and was able to help scientists reverse engineer the 1953 spacecraft.
And like the metal suits that they're talking about, would I thinking that it would be like for gravity, where the machines, the sauce, the machine flies the way it does. It has an ability to wait, keeps the person from getting crushed by the gravity inside the aircraft. Makes a bubble for them where the outside gets inertia, but the inside protects the pilot, keeps the body temperature, the operation of the person intact, and abilities to where when the pilot thinks, it reacts, the ship does. Like magnetic pulse, where the aircraft has that ability to where it matches, synchronizes with the magnetic of Earth, and it uses it, the mobility to move and to climb as high as it does and as fast. And it has a thing of where it's out in there that has a cloaking device built into with it that can mess with camera's eye, with the ship, with all of its abilities. They were showing the layers of minerals on this piece of from the craft. And well, there's another type of alien that has a lot to do with it too. They look like humans. They do. They pass off as a perfect human. And what better way of doing it as walking into ill areas and all that, where you're not noticeable, and you got that armor suit, that ability to cloak, make you invisible. They could be the Man in Black because they don't blink. Man in Black goes over for other national countries say that they have the Man in Black over there as well. They got handheld radar. They do, where they can sit there and know what airplane is commercial or regular, and they can pick out with the things of with alien craft or not. That's pretty good. And then the small guys, Grays, I think that them two probably could have problems because one looking for ways of propaganda, making for children, and they do have a way if they got organs, sexual organs, they do that they might get the two have to fight one another for survival to keep one from propaganda from the other. Ant people took in people during that time into the large cavern under the ground, where I think was an ice age, but the people that look like humans, but they're aliens. They were part of the group as well that was under there as well, and to hide themselves from the Greys. Perfect example during this time, the black satellite, black man, I forget the name of it, in space, is probably there as well for communications, time travel, abilities to where it helps with regulating, keeps them up on data, and where they know where the Greys are at near them or what. They're part of the groups of the 20 groups of aliens that comes to Earth. They, like the Greys, could have an easier way to have children if they wanted to. In today's time, it's gotten to the point where you can grow certain type of organs and all that. We're not saying it's possible that you take what type of what the material that you got to have to manufacture the a female egg, uterus, and all that, and those type of blood. That's another reason why they take the blood as well too, is to check best quality of the blood for the DNA construction of tissue. And they can have a way of doing it the same way too for a male to make sperm. And what do you need for fuel, energy, chemicals, or whatever? Grays would have a way to take the DNA of a person that they grow the body parts and all that from the DNA from 3D printer for from the plasma, and the same thing with the male body organs as well too. They take and they want to understand the human brain. The Black Knight is the satellite in space that helps them with doing a wide variety of things. And cameras has had problems with the taking a picture or even filming it, because at times if they want to block it, they can mess the layout of what the picture, make it look scrambled, alter it by making it altered the way it goes around the ship. Australia has one military base where it fixes airplanes, but now it's for a whole lot more. Australia and the U.S. runs both. They both run it together, and it's specified. They think it's one of the like an Area 51 situation. There's like 3 to 4 other bases. And there's another one came close. It matches to this one here, where the flying saucer, well, it's one that hit the windmill at this one farm. It went all over the farm, it did. And the people that lived there collected up all the parts and dumped it up into the well, sealed it up. The alien was buried in the cemetery in town. So far, they haven't found it, but it's hard to say. Like in Russia, the places where this one group went to check it out, and soon after they got there, about 1 or 2 days, they all started getting sick, getting radiation poisoning from the area. People told not to go there because people have gotten sick in the past from going there. They found these like domes. They're thinking that they're some kind of weapons from the aliens, but from each one of them, radiation comes from it. But people have came up, passed away, and died there. With new things that's coming up with the U.S., where they're wanting to eliminate the thing of using metals, but they're coming up with a new way of processing corn and fruits, and that to where they can make it like radio parts, like the outer side of it. Instead of using plastic for the outside, they can use like beans chopped, do a process on it, and use it for parts like that. That metal suit and all that. It probably has a wide variety of different uses. Like we have one, the type of metal that the U.S. has is where when a bullet goes through the metal, yeah, it goes through, but the metal reseals itself back up. We got a thing where it shows a picture of outside, like if you stand in front of the door, open door, what you see outside is the same as what you're seeing through the fabric. They got all different other things like that where there's got a cloak where you can put it right over your and it completely covers you. You don't see the person at all. They're even thinking that pot with in the ocean flying saucer flying saucers coming from it as well. Russia, the UK, Norway. They were showing that over this one little town that has a thing of like opening a portal there, and something went through. And with each thing, a new type of technology and all that, and the way they each thing gets how it gets handled.
Crop circles. The new AI, they call it AI slop. That's been going viral on the internet, and it's caught on camera crop circle videos. I know whenever we had our conversation, you said you wanted to actually talk about crop circles instead of that. So maybe you can start out with a little bit about what you wanted to discuss originally.
Okay. Well, I've seen the videos of the field of crops in the UK and what happens there and all that. And they saying that this happens from sundown to sun up, the whole area of acres of crops. In what way does the, the, the soil change? Does the change go through the soil to the plant itself? It's like an inch for every inch the plant folds over. Where it folds over, to me, looks like it goes through a magnetic change where without breaking it, magnetic has something to do with magnetics, where it folds plant over. Like the acid from the plant, it's in what way does the acid from the plant get changed? It's like electrical. It is different types of plants. Does it have different types of levels of the N acids in the plant? And what type of plants, the weather from it as well. It does the soil, the molecules, does it change as well in the soil? How long does the plant last of what was designed on in the crops? And does it change from different brands of soil? They showed about the seeds they got mutated. In what way does it change all that? Can you explain?
Now, a lot of people who talk about crop circles, usually when they talk about them, it's usually about the damage that's done to the plants whenever they're folded over. You know what I mean? It's not really just they don't really get into if the plants have been changed or anything like that. And a lot of people still hold on to the idea that all the crop circles are hoaxed, which is kind of ridiculous considering how many there are. And there are some crop circles that have been hoaxed, but they just take it a little bit too far. I mean, you have crop circles that are worldwide, and they believe that people are getting out there with pieces of wood and string and knocking down the crops. You know what I mean? And they're supposed to be so good that they're not damaging the freaking stalks of the plants, which is completely ridiculous. But no, I haven't heard of anybody talking about any changes that have occurred with um, the plants themselves. Hope that's helpful.
When you take a piece of grass and when you put it on your skin, how you get that acid, how it makes you itch. Okay, chemicals like that within the plant itself. And the orbs, okay, might not be a person, but a device where it's a program where it has an ability to go through and make the process in 20 acres. Okay, you can that 20 acres makes you wonder if it's magnetic, where it's using its molecules to alter the plant, the layout of the plant, where it's how far, and the the construction of the plant. That's the way I can put it. Performance of the plant. And if you was to take that plant in to have it tested, what type of chemicals is being altered? If they're have an ability to take and flatten inch by inch perfect lines, the soil and the plant itself, then you can tell the difference if they're using high tech like magnetics. Okay, a plant has to have metals in it too. It has to absorb metals. The process of the soil. Have anyone ever decided to test the soil and what different things of the soil different from the rest of it? Did they ever do find out in what way is the soil if the soil's been changed, if it makes it more or less fertile than before? What is the pH level of the plant after the process of it without being snapped? The heart of the plant itself, inside of the plant itself, it's in what way from the root to where it bends at? What way does make changes? Like if it's magnetic, the kind of mineral molecules is altered in the process. Flying saucers, they have that thing about like what happened in Arizona when the guy walked out of a truck and got zapped by and he would put it on board the alien craft. The guy went out a few years ago on the side around of where it happened that trees grew better, higher and all that. Within that circle area, plants got better in size and in health. Outside didn't. That's what I'm referring to. In what way the comparisons from the two, from the orbs.
Like I said at the beginning, whenever you first had me pull this stuff up, they were talking about AI. People are using AI to fake they call it AI slop. They're using AI to create fake viral videos about crop circles that show up overnight. Now that is the thing that I think a lot of people are catching on to there, that it's actually AI slop because they're creating videos where the crop circles just appear instantaneously. Where a lot of people who are actually into crop circles, and have been since the 1970s, they tell you that these crop circles are supposed to happen gradually overnight, and then they always end up in areas that are recognizable, like close to a road or close to a farm or somewhere that where people actually notice it. And like most of the AI slop is usually located all the way out in the middle of nowhere where nobody sees it, according to the video. And they do that because of the terrain when it comes to the AI. So I did want to point that out, that's what I ended up finding whenever I looked at those. But when it comes to the crop circles, The big debate about it is, and everybody keeps bringing it up, is like the plant flexibility. Now, the whole claim behind that, the reason why people who are against the phenomena of crop circles, uh, um, the ones who are against it, they come up with a counter argument about the folding over. They say that the plant during the months that they're usually um, being done is being done during the time of the year when they have high plant flexibility or pliability. And according to what they say, most crop circles are created during the peak summer months. And at that point in the growing season, the stems of crops like wheat, barley, and canola are green and succulent and pliable, highly pliable. And that's because they're filled with moisture and they act like fresh green twigs rather than dry brittle sticks. Now they're saying that these people, all of these people, are so freaking expert at freaking creating crop circles that they can use steady uniform pressure to apply uh, uh, a standard stomping board basically down on the stalks and it causes the stalks to bend easily, at a sharp angle without any mistakes, and without causing any snapping or anything to the outer walls of the stem or to anything like that. So that's what their big argument is, or their big thing is, that they're trying to say that they all do these like during the peak summer months because of that, because it's easily to do it. And I also checked in to what you were talking about when it comes uh, to the effects of the things. And skeptics and researchers, all of them, have noticed that the crop circles, when they're formed, they have nodes like the knuckle-like joints along the plant stem. They often appear elongated or stretched or bent. Okay, now fringe groups, that they argue that this stretching is caused by like sudden exposure to localized microwave or electromagnetic energy that's heating the water inside the plant. Now, botanists have made the statement that this is actually like a natural plant survival mechanism, and it's known as gravitropism or geotropism, whichever one you want to call it. And that's when a living plant is forced flat on its back. Its hormones quickly redistribute to simulate rapid cell growth on the bottom side of the node. And this extra growth acts like a hinge, which is actively trying to bend the stalk back upwards towards the sun. And like I've noticed that even with like plants, they always want to try to they want to go upwards. You know what I mean? They'll fall over and then they'll move back and forth. Like a lot of people don't realize that plants aren't just like swaying with the wind. They're swaying with the wind, but then they are also moving themselves back into position afterwards. So it's a constant struggle between the wind blowing them and then them straightening themselves out. So I always did find that interesting, but I don't buy it when it comes to what we're talking about here. You know what I mean? There's just there's too many of them for one thing. You know what I mean? For them to say that this is a hoax, there's just tons and tons of crop circles all around the world. This isn't like in one geographical area. You know what I mean? So, and not everybody is going to be experts at doing this stuff, and they've got elaborate crop circles. So, I hope that helped you with some of your questions that you wanted me to answer.
Yeah, it does. I noticed a few things. Okay, when you look at crop circles, the layout of the crop circles, it says something right there. How you know it's not fake? Okay, because when crops the depth of a crop designed for to make a picture of the design and all that, you as a person, you start to think, okay, when it from the ground to the tip of your finger, of your small finger, about the distance from the soil to where it starts to bend. And from the bend, from where it's flat to the ground. But if you add like 2 to 3 inches each way for each inch for every 2 inches, you go up about half an inch of where the plant goes up to. Makes you wonder. There ain't no way a person with a board able to do that depth of it. And that's like that that probe would have to know the right way of implementing that into service to alter that plants for that depth of the layout of a picture. A person, so far I haven't seen it. And when it comes to that, the plants were like beans and all that, have they came across any smashed beans in the process when they're talking about that? Any fruit, vegetables, or anything? Okay, like with rice. Okay, is rice or wheat? Because if it's a person, okay, you automatically see all that laying all over the field where they took it down. Okay, to me as well, if it's, and that's what I'm referring to, magnetic and radiation can alter the plant where you want what you want done. If you're taking, to me, you're controlling the molecules of the plants. You're altering the plant itself in such a way that you're making it fold in a round circle or a brick laying down a specific way of to make a picture of it. And you're doing the same thing with the soil because the soil has the outline of what you're creating as well too. And and it and it's like minerals of the soil. Okay. Radiation, microwave and all that, it destroys it like minerals. Like if you got raw high iron in the soil, doesn't it alter? Don't it destroy the soil iron in the soil for the plant's health? Where it's changing it, and for all the plants and all that, that you can as well too. When people doing that by hand, they're snapping. They're not. It's not bending like a rubber band or like straw. Okay, you get the straw effect when it's, to me, where when the probe is doing it. The probe is able to go through in no minutes flat, lay down the design, depth, and all that. And it has a thing of knowing how big is the acreage to that place is. It's precise on how far of it. It's like ground sonar, where it knows the right how big it is. They know how much of it is. For it to get to for one person's property, for as long as how big its property is, just look at the size of of it. In what way has any of this ever went on to other people? Bigger and over to other properties. That's what I'm saying. It's they know who's for each person, for each property, they are specific on where it goes to. And because like at one time the U.S. was talking about making food where it's part of the thing of like when you make radio, the outside radio, they're wanting to make it when you're using corn, wheat, beans, and all that to make skins and all that for radios and bed mittens, stuff like that. More or less clone the for the purpose of manufacturing for for household use, furniture and all that as well too. That's what they were talking about during the early 90s. And with all the plants as well too, and with all, for each type of plants, in what way, just how, what the height, thickness of it, from in to out, from the time that they do harvest, what size are the ones that haven't been altered, like from the inside of the crop circle? What size, how tall, more or less, how much of the area that has been affected, how much does it produce compared to beforehand?
They started talking about something else called the expulsion cavities, which is blown out nodes, and that's they say that that's perhaps the most dramatic physical anomaly found. And it's the presence of small holes or open cavities blown directly out of the walls of the rigid layer nodes. Now, the stem explosion theory is one of them, and that's where alternative researchers have argued that it's proof of an intense external energy source, like an atmospheric plasma vortex or focused microwave beam. Now, according to this theory, the lower nodes of the plant are far more rigid than the upper ones. And when microwave energy rapidly heats up the internal sap into steam, the pressure builds up so fast that it can't stretch the tissue. Instead, it literally explodes out of the node's wall, leaving a clean, blown out hole. Then after that, you have the over moisture and fungal reality, where botanists and agricultural experts point out that these cavities can occur naturally under specific conditions. And that's when plants are flattened tightly against the damp earth. Moisture builds up rapidly. Now, if the crop is heavily fertilized or experiencing a late summer growth spurt, high internal vascular pressure, which is turgor pressure, combined with opportunist fungal infections or rapid rotting in the bruised node tissue, they can cause the cell walls to rupture and collapse, which creates natural holes that resemble small explosions. This research team, they're called the BLT research team, they claim that seeds collected from inside certain authentic crop circles exhibited altered growth rates when they were germinated in laboratories. Now, in some cases, the seeds grew significantly slower or failed to germinate, while in others they grew at accelerated rates. They attributed this to alterations in the plant's embryonic development caused by energy exposure. Now, skeptics argue these differences are simply due to microclimate changes of being flattened. Seeds lying flat on the ground experience radically different humidity, soil contact, and sunlight compared to standing crops, naturally altering their maturity and health. Seeding and genetic development anomalies is what they called it. So apparently, whenever people who are well, the BLT research team, when they did it inside of a lab conditions, they found out that these plants actually germinated differently than what they should have done. It's usually significantly slower, or it failed to germinate entirely. And then some of them grew at like accelerated rates too.
Have they ever tried to take all different types of seeds that was altered, like done that to, and tried to see what happens if you grow a small percentage of that in this in the in space to see the what is the process of that? Because it would, because since you're talking about high thing of radiation, and why I say it was radiation, because like plants got that. To me, it's got like a plant has acid. You know how it makes you itch and burn, and it creates like energy in the plant itself. It takes the what is that again from the sun? It transforms the sunlight into what the plant needs. What better way of controlling and manipulating the plant? You're going through the minerals acting like a battery to the plant because the plant absorbs up the sun's rays for food and for building material. The acid from that in the plant, how much is each plant holds of acid in it? How much does it acquire for the plant from when it goes before it gets altered? How much is in it before and then after of the acid in the plant itself, fluid and all that? Your small finger from top to where it bends is about, I'd say, about like an inch. And if all the plants are different sizes and all that through the crops and all that, then the device is precise. It is when it can lay different pictures, layouts, and all that. Like for when they make like a circle or a design, like one laying on top of one. First one is an inch. The following one is like falling onto the next, making like a moon shape design. Okay, and for that you're talking about quite the thing of an area, round area that you're got, and a way to manipulate that area to make it, the plants do that. There's no other way that I can think of. And how does the wildlife? How do they respond to the area there when all that this happens? Do you see them more coming in, or do they completely stay away from them areas? If the plants have been messed with, does the wildlife still goes there to eat? When all this happens, have anyone ever notices dead like field mice or whatever within that area?
There has been soil testing inside certain crop formations that have revealed like notable anomalies. Most notably, the presence of highly concentrated magnetic particles and changes to the soil's mineral composition. So, just like the plant damage, these soil findings are heavily debated between not just the alternative researchers but the mainstream scientists. Now, the primary soil anomalies discovered inside crop circles include spherical magnetic properties, which is iron microspheres. Now, um, what happened was groups like the BLT research team, they dragged magnets through the soil inside specific crop circles, and they extracted unusual quantities of tiny microscopic iron spheres. Okay, and when they did that, they came up with two separate things. Well, there's two separate arguments there. The first one is the microwave meteorite theory, where these researchers argue that these particles are, uh, like I said, microscopic space dust, and they're meteoric iron, basically, that naturally floats in Earth's atmosphere. Now, they hypothesized that the intense electromagnetic energy or plasma vortices that create the circles magnetize the soil and pull these particles out of the air. Because the particles were perfectly spherical, researchers argued they must have been rapidly melted and cooled while suspended in the air. Okay. Now, with that being said, you have to look at the farmer equipment reality of all this, where geologists and skeptics point out that the spherical iron particles are common in industrial agricultural soils. They're primarily the byproducts of friction from heavy farm machineries like tractors and combine harvesters. Which grind against rocks, or from standard industrial fertilizers that that contain trace iron. Besides that, there is independent researchers like an engineer by the name of Colin Andrews, who documented measurable fluctuations and spikes in the local magnetic fields directly within the borders of certain formations. Now, this goes into another thing, or a couple of things, which is the Earth energy theory, where people suggest that 20% of crop circles are created by the Earth's natural magnetic forces, which electrocating which are electrocating the crops from the ground up. Then you also have other people who believe in static charge reality, where physicists, mainstream physicists, basically suggest that flattened thousands of plants quickly can generate a massive temporary electrostatic charge. Now, the plants basically act like a capacitor, holding on to the electricity and creating like a temporary magnetic imbalance between the vegetation and the earth. And this charge can linger for days, causing the compass and battery failures frequently reported by visitors. I don't know, that kind of is a little bit far-fetching, if you ask me, when it comes to that. So, now there's another thing too, in that's also mentioned, and it's changes in crystalline clay structures. Okay, and this is in very rare cases where mineralogists they analyze soil samples, and they notice that the crystalline structures of clay minerals like iolite and smectite inside the circles appeared more ordered or fixed compared to samples outside the formation. Now, this could be from the extreme heat, which is actually a theory, and that's where alternative researchers claim that this change could only happen if the soil was briefly exposed to like temperatures reaching 100 or hundreds of degrees, basically Celsius, which they argue humans could not do overnight without scorching the crops. Then you have the pressure and moisture reality, where the critics argue that localized changes in soil compaction caused by the weight of several people or heavy boards compressing damp earth can subtly shift how clay particles align, altering how they appear under X-ray diffraction testing without requiring extreme heat. Now, that would be fine if the fact was that they're talking about these crystalline structures of clay mineral within the circle was ordered and they were fixed. You know what I mean? That's what they're talking about. They were ordered, and these people were talking like oh, they could become ordered because of freaking a board that was pressing down the damp earth. You know what I mean? That just does not make sense whatsoever. So that's all the stuff I found out when it comes to the soil. So I'll give it back to you.
Okay. Well, it just seems a little peculiar. For all the things that they're talking about, and the concentration of the plant. How many countries? The five main countries.
Now, are you talking about what countries crop circles have appeared in?
Yeah, the heaviest ones for five other countries. The most in 5 countries.
Well, I mean, thousands of them have appeared across
Yeah,
dozens
but I
of
mean,
countries.
but the most of them.
Mostly it's in the United Kingdoms, the United States, Canada, Australia. There's even some in Japan and parts of Europe and South America.
Okay. And what type of soil are they in?
Well, I mean, you've heard me say right there, there's some that are in clay. I mean, I'm pretty sure there are different types of soil.
What about corn? Have corn ever been affected as well too? And if so, in what way was the corn affected? Like, was it full grown or partially grown when they were changed, bent over, when it was being altered? Because they're talking about fuel and all that, and if people takes their corn and does that, is the corn any good for that process or not?
Most of what I've found it's mostly within cereal grains, but they have been documented in a wide variety of plants, depending on the country and the season. You have them in wheat, you got them in barley, rye, and oats. Um, Oilseed rape or canola, that's another one. Then you have maize, which is in corn, and wheat and barley are harvested in late August. So the phenomena often shifts to cornfields. Corn stalks are incredibly tall, rigid, and thick because they're difficult to bend without breaking the heavy ears of corn. Um, Formations in corn are rarer and generally feature coarser, less integrated geometry. So you do have some that's in rice paddies. There's some that's in grass and reeds, and then you have niche agriculture crops too, where formations have been documented in fields of landseed, which is flax. There's soybean, sunflower, tobacco, and even vegetable crops like spinach or broad beans. So there's quite a bit.
That's curious. Does the corn process does that thing about the electrical outlet, which you're referring to, about they're claiming that plants and crops has a buildup of energy and all that. Potatoes, as they show on there, you take a potato, through a process, you take aluminum foil, wrap it around it. Well, you can run something off of the potato by plugging it into the potato to create that situation. If farmers put plants, fields, one next to each other that does something similar like that in such a way. This happened and created this problem for this field here, or making it look like an orb or whatever. Who knows what? But it seems odd that if a plant's able to build up energy and create that situation for itself, how many other plants can do that as well too? If there's a place where we call it minerals in the soil have crystals in it, you hear on the TV about crystals harmonize, or it can be used for energy, and that's another thing. What if there's property that has that in the soil of crystals, mineralized crystals in it, and the process is going through that would be one way of where you can control the plant and the soil as well by through that situation there, like the ley lines. What I'm referring, I mean, you trying to use this for the best way, ley lines, where ley lines affect other outside of the areas and all that. If there's any minerals like crystals or anything like that in soils where these plants are at and that process has happened through there. And for the plants, and where a plant builds up big amounts of energy from, could be from that situation there.
Whenever I look at a lot of this stuff, it stops and it makes me stop and think. Like they always talk about like it being a hoax, and they're really big about pushing the whole hoax thing because back in the 1970s, two crazy old guys said that they did it, and they just jumped on board with that, and they just keep pushing. This is a hoax. This is a hoax, and more of these crop circles pop up all around the world in different locations, and they all have the same exact thing. Like there's identical plant changes that take place where researchers have documented the exact same anomalies when it comes to the cellular stuff, like the blown out plant nodes that I was telling you about, and magnetic soil particles. This is happening every in every freaking area of the world in different parts. You know what I'm saying? And these are similar. It's like one doesn't. It's not like one does it and then freaking another one does something completely different. You know what I mean? These are always happening where they have magnetic soil. They're having these cavities that are freaking blown out. You know what I mean? And stuff like that. And also, there's also like old stories about the old freaking mowing devil back in 1678, which was before we had TV, or yeah, it might have even been before the printing press for all I know. But it was actually written there where I believe it was in England. I'm not quite sure what area. It could have been in Scotland or Wales too, but it was in 1678 where they were talking about it, and it shows like a circular anomaly that appeared in fields way before the media could even talk about freaking crop circles, so that's the kind of stuff that really sticks out to me, you know and there's actually cases not just in the UK. Like there's massive formations in Western Canada as well, and I believe now they're even in Australia in the desert. So
It's like this process where certain color lights or frequencies, different things can manipulate plants. Okay. Have anyone ever tested for that situation if a device could be used in that way or not to make a plant react in a certain way. Because you always hear about light color, light rays doing certain things for plants, and in what way does the plant respond to that situation? How does it make it the plant change? Plants got to have so much partial or full light, or 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 somewhat shady, more shady than light. Okay. Now, if that's the case, how does the plant handle that situation? And like when it comes to high frequencies, okay, like a radio station close to field full of crops, okay, does it kill the plant or alters, or in what way does it enhance the plant or creates a problem for the plant? When they put G5 here in the US, they amped it up, and close to the areas of where the towers are at, while plants has backed away from them, and so did trees. Now, what happens in that situation? Does it does the same thing with, to plants out all over, like next to the road, communications and all that?
That's something that most people, when it comes to this topic, don't really like. I've noticed that even people who are into ufology and the paranormal and stuff don't even really like talking about consciousness. And if you go into that, you'll hear some people who talk about the actual plants themselves, if they have a consciousness. And you take a look at like research that was done back in the 70s and even into the 80s, where they've done research on plants, and they've found out that plants actually are repelled or attracted to certain type of music. You know what I mean? They also, they're aware of people who have a green thumb versus a person with a brown thumb. You know, when it comes to gardening, and they seem to get along better with people who are good at gardening and are, they know. You know, they did a they did a show on the, what was it, um what's the name of that one TV series where it was um had Leonard Nimoy on it, and they did like something of the unknown. Their first episode was about that, about plants, and do they have a consciousness? Because they found out that plants can actually communicate with one another over freaking long distances when it comes to vines and stuff of that nature. So you've got a lot of different things to look at in that area. That's without even looking at UFOs or looking at ghosts or anything. You know, I've heard a woman that came on to a show called New Thinking Aloud, I believe is the name of the show, and she was talking about like old pagan beliefs, and how people used to go out into the fields after the time it was for freaking growing crops, and they would throw festivals in celebration for the seasons, and then they stopped doing it, you know. And then now with today, you take a look and you see these crop circles. Maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe these plants uh, could be telling you something. You know what I mean? That's involved with all of that. So it's interesting. That's a whole different area. Um, that's my take on it. But I think that right there goes into the whole realm of consciousness, especially when it comes to electromagnetics. Okay.
But what I was referring to is okay, when sound waves through the atmosphere, in what different way does the plant, where, you know, does it alter the plant? You know, too much of radiation from the signal, like a radio station, however the depth of power it uses, and then so and like they were, and I was wondering too that when all this happens with the plants, these people are saying that, well, I just don't really buy the thing that, I mean, you can tell too that if they were claiming that they did this and they did that with plants, okay, but you look at the the plant itself, you look at the plant, the height of the plant, and how like the design that's being made. If they can come up with an actual good how they did it, and like well, like okay, how much does a plant have of N acids in it? Okay, where because to me, when you mess with a plant, you're messing with N acids. The plant has to have that to break down materials and all that to absorb up. I guess that's how it works. And if so, okay, the whole process of that's going through the plant and it builds up. That's how it gets its stuff from the sun. But in what way it when it goes through when the plant gets when that happens to the plant? Has anyone ever did a thing of showing how much of the N acid in the plant itself? Does it show how much is actually in the plant, the root all the way through? And if not, does it show the materials for the plant, the soil for the plant to survive when it's growing to support that N acids material from the soil to the plant? Does it show anything of that in the soil as well for the building blocks of the plant? And each different plants would be different. I know that from the climates, the plant, the soil, but in what different ways that N acid from the soil would how would it have to be in what how would it be in the soil different brands of soils for all the soils to make to support plants that's being grown in, okay, because beyond the weather, okay, like if some like here in Illinois, we in one state we have two different types of climates, two different types of soil, okay, and then within that area, in what different plant, what plants can handle the two would be better in what soil, and
Well, I
that's
mean,
what I'm referring to.
for me, I mean, I don't really, I don't see the connection there when it comes to crop circles. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see how any of that would relate to why crop circles appear whatsoever. I mean, that's just my take on it, you know? Um, it's a phenomena for one thing. So I think maybe like the results of what happened after freaking these crop circles happen, where they would have like a magnetic charge, that would be something that you would look at, and then like the whole magnetic iron uh, minerals that they found in the soils. That's interesting too. But then they said too that that's also common in usual crops where heavy machinery is used. So it is an interesting story when it comes, but I just don't see a lot of what you're saying right there as being like a why the actual crop circles happen. You know what I mean? To be honest.
What I'm referring to is crop circle. If you take like the N acid of a plant, you drain from it, but where you turn it using its own materials to then make it do whatever you want. Okay, like you turning that plant into like a positive or negative, where you're folding the plant over using negative
Yeah,
neutrons.
that's why we were talking. That's what it was talking about. Like whenever that was the geologist's theory, where when they're laying down like that, they create a magnetic field because they have to use that energy to try to lift themselves back up.
Yeah, and they're using acid because acid's like a battery, ain't it?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe I read that.
Okay, and that would be another way of taking the process, taking it from negative to positive, to where the plants are folding over to one another. What I'm referring to is if you're using the energy from the plant for the process of folding over to make the design, you using the battery from the plant itself. The device is using manipulating that situation to do that to play out the thing because you're using its own energy and own acids.
Well, see, what I was getting from it was that it's not, it's the energy is not coming from the formation of it. It's coming from after the formation was made, where the plant's actually trying to raise back up and be straight and grow towards the sun. So
Yeah,
it's after that's where the magnetic it's reports of magnetism come from, where it's draining your batteries. People have been reporting their batteries and stuff being drained when they go to these sites, and they're making the claim that it's actually the plants trying to rise back up so that they can face up towards the sun. So
yeah, because they were it was drained from them being bent over. What I'm referring to, and they're using they're using the atmosphere as like like drains the energy, like you were saying. It's using any magnetic thing in the atmosphere, what like the orb does with the plants. The orb is doing the same thing to the plants as what the plants were doing to the vehicles.
okay,
Because
so you've gotten up to an hour and 8 minutes. So are you wanting to wrap this up and call
well,
it?
let's a little bit more, but yeah,
Go ahead.
but what I'm referring to is like in Canada. Okay, when this all happened, and where was this at happening in Canada? Okay, and what because over in Canada, it's awful hard for certain plants to grow there in Canada. And what was it that was uh, was that done to, and what part of Canada? Because and if so, have anything ever this happened in Mexico? Because they got a lot of farmland in the middle of the desert as well. And I was wondering in what way was it, if there is, in what way did the crops from there, in what way was it affected as well too for Mexico? I was curious because you never quite hear it, but they do got a lot of good crops there. Well, thank you for watching. Let us know if you have any ideas, views, where you're from. Let us know. And you have a nice day. Thank you. And this is the unknown. Okay, thank you.